Hey, what's going on? This is Troy, and this is the Planet 76 podcast, your source for Sixers news, highlights, hot takes, and more. Welcome to the show.
All right, everybody. Welcome to a sad episode of Planet 76 podcast, episode 43, to be exact. I'm your co-host, Michael from Trust to Love. As always, Troy with me, and we are fresh off of a Sixers meltdown, if you will, against the Brooklyn Nets with KD and Kyrie Irving playing. Seth Curry, obviously, having a great game because that's what he does. He's Seth Curry. He's amazing. And yeah, before we get into it, make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It's been a while since we've had a shout like that, but always want to make sure we get the promo in. And just if you're on YouTube, comment your thoughts. Comment your thoughts on the loss, the absolute disgusting loss. And Troy, what do we got here?
I am not sure.
Man.
We're literally 7 minutes post Sixers loss to the Nets, 129-100. If you did not catch the game and you did not catch the score, 129-100. Do I need to say it again?
No. You don't need to say it again. We're good.
Truly unbelievable. So Ben Simmons in street clothes on the bench. I'm sure we can chat about that as well. And the Boo Birds were out. I only saw that one person, at least a minimum of one person, got kicked out, removed from the stadium because of what they were saying toward Ben or whatever.
Oh man.
I think at least my impression from what I saw, obviously high energy early in the game. Lot of energy, playoff atmosphere, you name it. I mean, this was marked, 6 minutes after the trade went down. This game, March 10th, was kind of marked on everyone's calendar, Sixers fans and Net fans alike. And here we are. And then the Nets came out early and dominated. Sixers did not lead in this game. At the Wells Fargo Center, they did not lead a single second in this game. 40-23 after the first quarter, and I think from that point on, the energy was gone. Rightfully so. What are they going to do? What are the fans going to do? What are they going to say? How are they going to, continue to boo or whatever it is? The energy was gone from that point, and it continued. I mean, the first three quarters for the Nets, 40, 32, and 30. You're going to win a lot of games if you are over 100 points in three quarters. And so a lot went right for the Nets. A lot went wrong for the Sixers. I don't know. What did you see? I mean, it's hard to even – I don't think we should even pick a highlight or anything because there's nothing, but a lot of lowlights. I mean, how did you feel catching that?
Well, I mean, like I was saying off air, I was at work until around 8:30. I didn't quite catch the entire game. Mm-hmm. I did catch a little bit of the third quarter and the fourth quarter, and it was just like you said. After the second quarter, for the most part, everything just deflated. Any momentum, any energy seemed like it was gone. And even though times like that in the game where you think, oh, well, there's plenty of time left, which there is. Basketball is 4 quarters for a reason, but it just didn't feel like it just they went down 20, and it was like, wow. I mean, what is going to happen? Or can they even come back from this? Is it even worth watching? I mean, right. It ended up not being, but
it was bad.
It's just it's just really bad.
It was bad, and just obviously to give some numbers to it. The Nets shot 56% from the floor. They shot 45% from three. They went 18 for 40 from the 3-point line. That's remarkable. And the Sixers shot 32% field goal percentage, 30 for 93 from the field. 30 for 93 is bad. And, I mean, that's the tail of the tape right there.
That's less than 30%, right?
32%. 32% to 56%, and 18 threes again for the Nets. Kyrie had 22, Durant had 25, Seth Curry 10 of 14 from the field. We've seen him be efficient like that. He had a 24-piece, had one he knocked down before timeout. He messed around with the Sixers bench a little bit. Yeah, Chef Curry was cooking it up for sure. I mean, I don't know if you care to comment on Ben Simmons.
Oh, no, I don't.
No care to comment on Ben Simmons.
Nothing to say.
I'll say this. I think that, I saw a lot of stuff pregame. Him walking out of his hotel and fans booing and all that sort of thing. But again, I think just getting back to it, they really sucked the air out of the Sixers fans' agenda, if you will, with how well they played early on. Did the Nets. So I will say this, and this has been a thought post-game, but I think I would have said this if the Sixers had won, that at least we can move on from this March 10th game. Because, again, this was looked forward to for a month after the trade went down, and now it's
on the nose.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's okay, let's move on. We might see him again, we might not. But, this date is gone. This date is done. Sixers lost in a terrible way. But the countdown to that is gone, and now it's more of a countdown to the playoffs and where the Sixers are going to fall in that standing and all of those things. Now, I get it. If the Sixers had won, I'd be very fired up, and we'd be excited to say, how well the Sixers played, and oh my gosh, the trade is so amazing, and it still is. It's not like
it still is. You can't let that take away from the fact that this trade is still an amazing trade,
right?
And I mean, he didn't have a great game, but Sixers still have James Harden, and that's something you can't really just overlook, especially for the fact of the matter being he's still only played a few games for this team.
Right,
you can't overlook that.
Right.
At all. And
it was an inopportune time to have a bad game for the Sixers, obviously, but bad games happen around the NBA. You wish that it didn't happen tonight just because of all the expectations that went with it. Now, obviously there were a lot of glaring concerns tonight, but anything jump out, whether this game or previous games, just about the Sixers, over these next 14, 15 games for the playoffs, they need to fix that. Anything jump off the page to you?
Nothing really jumped off the page. I think for the most part, the Sixers have, aside from having James Harden, the Sixers have won a lot of games the past few weeks, and it's easy to get lost in a loss,
right?
Because the Sixers don't lose very often, and when they do lose, for the most part, it's not like this.
Mm-hmm.
Which, again, they don't lose very often, so when they lose like this,
right,
I think it's amplified much more. And then again, you add in the fact that they've been winning a ton of games, and they've won very frequently. They've had multiple 5-6 game win streaks.
Mm-hmm.
So the expectation is win, obviously. So when you don't win, it's okay, wow, this team sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And that is dramatic, but that's how the Sixers fan base is. It's unfortunate, but that's how they are. And we all get like that sometimes, But, hey, it is that.
Right. Right. So, nothing, again, like you said, jumps off the page, I think. But there's certainly things that are still concerns. Again, we've talked numerous times about the backup big man situation and what that's going to look like. Obviously, that's not what's to blame for tonight, but it's just something that's still there. And then some of the shooting things, and we saw, I believe Monday, Isaiah Joe get minutes ahead of Korkmaz against the Bulls, because of where Korkmaz has been lately with his shooting and things, and so. Just a couple other things to monitor, again, as we push toward the end of the season. Tobias Harris, we talked about him last week, trying to find his way. He's had a couple encouraging games, had a couple, not so encouraging games, I guess, if you can say it that way. How do you feel about, how he's finding his way? How confident are you that he's going to find his piece, find his place, and play a vital role for the team moving forward?
I think he will. I really think he will. The past week, since actually it's been 2 weeks since Harden's been playing, but since Harden's gotten here, Harris, I think we may have talked about it last week as well, but since Harden's gotten here and played with his team, I really think it's been good for Harris because he's gotten a ton of opportunities to hit open shots, and he's made some. Mm-hmm. He's also missed a lot, and I think he will find that again. I think the past month before the Harden trade was his best stretch this year.
Yeah, by
a long margin, by a very wide and large margin. Mm-hmm. I think he'll find that again. I really do. And when he does, I think this is pretty obvious, but when he does, it's really going to help this team so much. And I think he ended up with maybe 20 tonight, but
16, yeah.
Again, 16, yeah. Again, a lot of the points were kind of meaningless because the Sixers were down 20 for the better part of the game.
Right.
So, again, I think Harris will. I really think he will. And I know we haven't really talked about this too much, but where do you stand on that? Like, what do you think, are you in the same boat of, hey, because I know a lot of people are thinking, well, a lot of people have their eyes on the offseason where the Sixers could trade him, and while that's a valid, I think, standpoint, I also I lean towards the other way just a little bit more than the average fan, so where do you find yourself?
To me, off-season wise, I think it all to me, I haven't gone too deep off-season wise when thinking Tobias Harris. I think a large chunk of it depends on what he does the postseason this year.
Yes.
Without a doubt. I think and how the Sixers do. Obviously, if the Sixers are an earlier exit than they should be and Tobias doesn't play well, he's gone.
Hot seat for sure.
And then, even if he doesn't play as well but the Sixers win the title, like that gets that takes kind of a back seat to where it would be if, you have someone to point fingers at if you lose. You don't really point that many fingers if you win kind of thing. So I think with Tobias this year in particular, so even just to give some context, the last 5 games, so dating back to the game against the Knicks at home, he had 14. He had 15 against Cleveland. He had 16 in the loss to Miami. He had 8 in the win against Chicago. Wasn't super involved in the offense, obviously, that night. And then 16 tonight in the blowout loss to the Nets. So, but I think the point that you made about Tobias this season and the fact that he was playing his best basketball of the season and maybe in a Sixers uniform, the month before James Harden came. And I'm confident that Tobias can find his place because he's a professional scorer. Is he Kevin Durant? Yeah. No, but this is a guy who's been in the league 10 years and has averaged, 17, 18, 19 points a game. That's no slouch. That's no fluke. You know what I mean? He's a guy that can get buckets, and I think he's going to continue to do that for this team. Is he worth the max contract? No. And we've talked about that a million times too. But that ain't his fault.
Right, exactly. And he's, to your point, he still is that guy. I think he really is still that guy that can give you, for a little while, I don't know if you remember, he had a nickname, Toe Buckets.
Right.
I still think he is that guy. I still think he's the guy from last season when he was a borderline all-star, which I could push that agenda all day long, but I won't on this episode. He was borderline all-star. I still think he is that guy. He just has to find it. He's been inconsistent, but it's there. It really is, I think, and he just has to find it.
Yeah. Yep, and he will. He will. So the Sixers sit now at 40-25, 3 back of first One back of the Bucks, who are 42-25, and in second in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, something to monitor there. Meanwhile, the Nets 34-33, still very much kind of locked in to very much so locked into that play-in game. So 7, 8, 9, 10 obviously are in the play-in, and the Nets are at 8 right now, and they're 5 back of 6th place where the Cavs are. So the Cavs keep winning.
Wow.
And so that's 5 games back. It looks like the Nets are heading to the play-in game. Now, it seems, I think most people are going to like the Nets' chances in the play-in.
Yeah.
Because they have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, but still worth noting, of course. And, I can't imagine being the Heat, the Bucks, the Sixers, whoever it's going to be, that their reward for being a higher seed is that they get to play Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving in the first round.
Jeez.
That is
Funnily
scary.
enough, though, I think the Heat are probably the best